Welcome to Galaxy Brains.
An infinite amount of cash.
I'm your host, Alex Thorn.
The U.S. banking system is sound and resilient.
Bitcoin made a new all-time high.
If you're not long, you're short.
Satoshi's going to come on there, laugh hysterically, go quiet, all Bitcoin's going to be erased.
Bitcoin's the best crypto asset.
Bitcoin is going to zero.
Welcome back to Galaxy Brains. As always, I'm your host, Alex Thorn, head of research at Galaxy. Thanks for listening. This is the next edition of the Nashville tapes, and we're talking with my friend Steven Lubka, head of Swan Private, about what he's hearing from high net worth individuals and family offices and their interest in Bitcoin, what the market is telling him and his clients, what their interest levels are. And also, Steven is a well-known sun maximalist influencer. We're going to talk to him about the benefits of walking in the sun, something that we obviously knew thousands of years ago, but now it's taking science to tell us again is good. Before we get to the show, I need to remind you, please refer to the link to the disclaimer in the podcast notes and note that none of the information in this podcast constitutes investment advice or an offer, recommendation, or solicitation by Galaxy Digital or any of its affiliates to buy or sell any securities. Let's get right into it with Steven. Welcome, Steven Lubka, head of Swan Private. Steven, thank you so much for coming on Galaxy Brains.
It's a pleasure to be here, man. I've been a long time coming. It's excited to come on.
Yeah, I'm very excited to have Steven on. Steven knows a lot about Bitcoin and Bitcoin markets, and also is a well-known sun maximalist. I think, honestly, you are like the seed oil scout of the sun, as far as I'm concerned, which, I mean, that guy's got like 1 million followers. People, I don't know why they didn't know that the sun is positive.
Hey, other people are saying it. I'm not saying it.
You're curating the content. You're also proving it.
Yeah.
You spend a lot of your day walking in the sun, doing your job on the phone and stuff.
It's a funny story because it wasn't a plan. It wasn't a strategy. I wasn't like on Twitter like,
Oh, I need a niche to fill.
Yeah, like getting more sunlight and living a more circadian lifestyle changed my life, my focus, my drive, my energy, my sleep, like everything. It was comprehensive. And so I started talking about it just as, hey, this made a difference in my life, and it's free. I have nothing to sell you. Like, just go outside.
Just go outside.
Just go outside and see if you feel different, see if it helps. And, kind of just went from there. And I was surprised at, the uptake. I was surprised at the interest on Bitcoin Twitter, and suddenly it just became a thing and people were very interested. I recently published something called the Sunlight Manifesto with Swan, and it's 10 pages, it's 40 plus citations. It goes deep into the research, countless peer-reviewed studies showing that sunlight is not only essential to human health, but it's not even just your circadian rhythm or you sleep well or something. It's your hormones, it's your energy metabolism, it's countless disease rates, multiple sclerosis, cancer rates, actually go way down. People think we need to avoid the sun, like skin cancer dermatologists, but it actually lowers cancers, breast cancer, stomach cancer, brain cancers, all of these countless systemic nasty cancers, as much as 50% compared to people. It's a big story.
So is it that you shouldn't use sunscreen, or that you should just be out in the sun more, or you should I've seen people with terrible sunburns. Is that not a thing?
Sunburns are bad, right? A sunburn is a sign that you got too much. And I think the first answer to this question is what most people are surprised by is actually most of the benefits are via your eyes. It's actually seeing sunlight. And it has countless mechanisms in the body that keeps homeostasis and keeps many processes going. Now, sun on the skin is also beneficial. You need vitamin D. There's infrared light. There's mitochondrial effects. But you want to stop short of getting a sunburn. Now, if your only option is to get a sunburn or use a mineral sunscreen, use the sunscreen.
Yeah.
This isn't like a tanning thing.
Right. You're not lying out in the sun, soaking up for hours as much as you can.
And I don't do that.
You're being outside.
You're just being outside. You're walking around. I walk a lot, and I do, phone calls with clients, and it's just finding a way to get more natural light into your life. And I have DMs from hundreds of people from Bitcoin Twitter that have started doing this, and they're saying it. I'm not saying it. The results are life-changing.
Yeah.
And it's free. It costs you nothing. Give it a shot.
It's one of these things that, like, I always laugh about with modern science, which is obviously incredibly important. Scientific method is we make a lot of discoveries, we advance society in many ways, but also we tend to rediscover things that obviously humanity already knew. Like the idea that we need 40 citations to tell us that it's good to be outside. It's kind of funny.
It's hilarious. No, you hit the nail on the head, and it's the same thing. Like, my profile, besides Bitcoin stuff, is walk, go in the sun. Like, to talk to someone 100 years ago or 500 years ago, it's like I can't not do that. You know what I mean?
You remember that? You ever see that movie Dogma, the Jay and Silent Bob movie? There's a part where Chris Rock falls from the sky as an angel. He like lands like they think he's dead, but he's like fine because he's an angel. Yeah. And they're like, all right, man. He's like, all right, to Jay and Silent Bob. He's like, we got to get going. Like, we got to be in this place in like an hour or two. And they're like, well, we can't get a car or whatever. And Silent Bob's like a fat guy. And he's like, Chris Rock's like, are you fucking serious? Like, dude, we're just gonna walk. He's like, nobody walks anymore. He's like, you think? And back when I was here with Jesus, like, we all just walked everywhere. He's like, we were in great shape. We just walked everywhere. He's like, yeah, it's a 3-hour walk. Like, deal with it. And they're like,
And the research is staggering. And so, like, my message or my angle here for this audience is, like, even if all you care about in life is your professional performance, is trading or investing or, you know, whatever, being successful, like, you're really driven. That's awesome. Like, I love people with drive. And the bottom line is you will be more effective, you will be more focused, you will be more dialed in. Like, if you move more, like, there's brain activity studies, there's cognitive studies, like having a better light environment. Children in school, when you got natural light in, they performed better at math, at reading. People who solve problems after taking a 30-minute walk are much more effective at solving these problems. So it's like, it's not, the thing I want to say is, like, I don't do this because I'm like, oh, I want to be healthy when I'm 80 years old. Like this super marshmallow test, like delayed gratification. Like, no, I do this because the benefits right now are life-changing and make me more effective at the things I value.
And it probably makes you happier. Everybody knows this. You know, you sit inside all day. And we have this problem in America, you know, I've worked in offices for a long time, and I was working at Fidelity for a couple years in the South, and it was very hot. So you're mostly going from an air-conditioned apartment to a car, driving to the office park, and then sitting under fluorescent lights all day. And then I go to the doctor one time, and they're like, "You have a pretty serious vitamin D deficiency, which is like rare for someone like you. You know, I'm like half Hungarian. I'm not like extremely pale. My wife is Irish. Like she needs vitamin D. Like I'm normally fine." And they're like, "Do you perchance like work in a fluorescent lit office building?" And I was like, "Yeah, for about like 10 hours a day every day." So it's just funny that like we're having to tell people this, but I guess the basement dwellers that we all are that make up the X.com user base probably do need to hear it more than most.
It's structural, it's cultural, and like that's one reason I think it's worth talking about this. Like, people hear it, it makes their lives better. That's super rewarding. But like, it doesn't have to be this way.
Right.
Like, I work in a very demanding environment. Like, I'm a professional. I do, many things. But like, you can set up a workspace that has some natural light coming in. You can have more windows. You can have windows that open, like, and some screens. Like, it wouldn't even cost that much money to redesign office culture. Like, these are not like unsolvable problems. Like, literally one fix. Like, there's even something called a solar tube, which they run in from the ceiling. It collects sunlight and it broadcasts it inside the building.
So that the actual illumination of the office is the sun.
Is the sun.
So it's not this fake artificial light.
I'm having a quote for one at my house right now, and it's like $1,000, man.
Wow.
Like, these are solvable problems. We don't need new innovations. You could have more windows that opened and are screened. You could have ways to control temperature. And like, that's one reason I talk about it is like, if I'm an employer, if I'm a business, and I want to be competitive, I could easily put together a very empirical case study for why your team is going to be more effective, they're going to be more productive, they're going to be more, they're going to deliver more value with some simple lighting adjustments. Like, It's right there.
Man, we have strained so far, but everything old is new again. This is great. To be clear, I'm a big fan of Steven's Sun influencership. I continue to follow Steven on this journey. I try to do it myself, so I do recommend it. Let's talk about Swan and Bitcoin.
Yeah.
You're head of private client at Swan. So Swan's a Bitcoin brokerage with a variety of products, but what kinds of people do you work with, and what are their sense of Bitcoin in this moment where, you've got a presidential candidate speaking Friday, July 26th when we're recording this. RFK is about to speak on the main stage in Nashville. Former President Donald Trump is speaking here tomorrow. I don't know, fold all that in and tell me what your clients are thinking and talking about.
Yeah, so I run the private client team for Swan. I've done that since inception. So I started it. I've built it from the early days of the company. I'm, very fortunate to have gotten that opportunity and gotten to do this. And we are one of the largest, Bitcoin-only brokerage firms that serves, our high net worth client book is one of the largest. And we talk with family offices, high net worth individuals, mass affluent, some small businesses, small and medium businesses. And these clients, they come to us because we're able to provide a model that I think is more familiar to them, right? Because what is the Coinbase model, for example? It's log in, figure it out. What's two-factor? I don't know. You better have it.
Silicon Valley tech support model.
You can't really get good service there. And even if you're doing a multi-million-dollar position, right? There's a certain level you can, but it's not seven figures.
I mean, the ETFs can. We know that. But I agree. I hear you.
Yeah, but that's what I mean. There's a certain level where you get that. But if you're just a person, maybe even buying $1 million, $2 million, $3 million, it's tough. And I'm just reporting what I hear from my clients, whatever that may be. And so, but a lot of these people, they're used to the Morgan Stanley experience, the private banker experience, that there's somebody they can call. And with Bitcoin, it's not just buying a stock. You're not just taking a Google position or whatever. And there's a million layers of known processes. It's new, it's different, and they want somebody educated, sophisticated, that they can pick up the phone and call when they need something. And that's what we delivered with Private, along with a suite of products.
Yeah.
And so I've spent years talking with clients of Swan and listening to why they're interested in Bitcoin, why now, what is their plan, what brought them here, how did they discover it? It's fascinating. And it gives a really interesting view into the market where there's this population that is pretty financially sophisticated. They've done well, they've been successful, they have assets, and they're now turning to Bitcoin. And they're interested and they're motivated and they're taking large positions. And why they're doing that has changed over time, and including how people find out about it, their education level. Actually, in the bear market, so in 22 and 23, you actually found that most clients were extremely educated that were coming, because these were the people that were buying it when there was not a lot of hype.
When people were bearish on it, they were still interested. Yeah. Right? It wasn't the hype wave of people calling you with FOMO.
Exactly, and I've seen that. But so we saw family offices, we saw high net worth individuals coming that really understood Bitcoin. They ran their own wallets. They knew how it worked generally. They had a sophisticated thesis for why Bitcoin would go up in value and why they wanted to include even maybe a large position in their portfolio. And it was really cool to see. Then in some of the earlier 2021, it's there was a lot of I've heard about this recently. I know it's going up. And it's interesting. A lot of the questions we got then were more, what's with the energy FUD? Can the government stop?
How does it work?
How does it work?
Yeah. And so it was the reverse.
Exactly.
Right? They already know they want it, but they need to know how it works and what is it? But yeah.
And so we spent a lot of time with those questions in 21. In the bear market, it's more, who is Swan? Who are you guys? Can we trust you guys? How does the platform work, right? They know Bitcoin. They now want to know Swan. In the bull market, they want to know Bitcoin. And so now we're at this interesting moment where, I would say we're in a bull market. It's been very positive returns. We had the spot ETFs. We have presidential candidates that are talking. I mean, I'm amazed by that.
It's crazy.
And my clients are too.
Yeah.
And Swan clients are too. And so it's But it's still, I think you still see a lot of the momentum, a lot of the interest, a lot of the, it's people that have been in the space for a little while. They already understand it. They're adding to their position, or they've had a smaller position. They're ready to take a larger position. There's definitely net new flow, people that are establishing an initial position. But I don't think we've heavily crossed over that inflection point yet. And a lot of the companies I talk to and a lot of the business providers, they're saying a similar thing, right? Like, people are very positive on Bitcoin right now. They're long Bitcoin. They want to be more long Bitcoin. But it's generally not people that found out about it a month ago.
Yeah, I think that's right. I don't see a lot of new entrants in the market at the moment. From our perspective, one of our most potent audiences, client bases, client segments that we are always trying, we and everybody else is always trying to activate our allocators, pensions, endowments. And they, there were a few notable entrants in 2021. Most of them had an internal champion who, if they were progressive enough, got some empowerment to do something. A few of them spun up teams, but then with the disasters of 22, that they mostly went away. And then we started seeing them start to come back, and the ETFs really help a lot here. And now you're seeing, but even then, it's the State Investment Board of Wisconsin. There was one today I saw, the Jersey City's pension, but they're still few and far between. But we hear that a lot of these teams are being reconstituted too, and this is sort of that's like an allocator version of this. But see the same thing with retail. Like, you don't see and part of this too, it's going to be interesting, right? I mean, this is a perfect time where historically you might think like a parabolic bull run was about to kick off with waves of retail FOMO, but the American consumer and investor, middle class, is hurting with this economy, with the inflation in particular. We've had 30% debasement of the currency in the last 3 years. So it's just it feels different, but I do agree we're not really back in that same retail FOMO-driven market. It is different.
It's different.
Is it different every time, you think, by the way?
I think it is.
When they say this time is different is the worst thing to say, but I don't mean it in everything's going to be good this time. I mean
it's just different.
It always feels different.
Yeah, no, you can't just it's not just this mirror cycle over and over again. It's actually very different each time. And I think what's interesting here is something I'll talk sometimes with clients about is there's this view in markets, right? If you're just a guy, if you're just somebody, it's good to think you don't generally have an edge, right? That's a good heuristic to operate off of. There's very sophisticated firms out there. But with Bitcoin, I think people do in this moment. I think there's an information edge that for various reasons, what you just described, we just saw the largest financial firms, your company included, just launched spot ETFs of Bitcoin. They've been wildly successful. Wildly. I believe they've taken in more inflows than QQQ this year, the chief NASDAQ ETF. I mean, insane, beyond wildest expectations.
Yeah.
And yet, you just talked about it, these many players, they're still hesitant about the very nature of the asset. Now, why would the largest financial companies in the world launch ETFs that are the most successful ETFs of all time, yet the underlying asset is a scam? No, it's incoherent. That you can't square that. And so there's actually, you have an information edge. You understand something about this that for whatever reason, it's a new idea. There's been a ton of bad press because FTX or whatever, generational
energy,
energy stuff, generational trends, whatever reason. I don't know the reason. But for some reason, if you're listening to this interview right now, you understand something about this asset that many do not. And I think, we haven't seen that wave yet. And I think it's a great time to position because of that.
I think so too. We're below the all-time high. Inflation adjusted, I think it's the equivalent of $48K in 2020 dollars. So presumably there's plenty to go. I don't see, and we're also clearing, you and I have been tweeting about this, we're clearing a lot of the overhang supply, things like Mt. Gox, U.S. government, the German government, the poor guys just fumbled the bag so hard, right? Just market selling for weeks. into what is likely, I mean, I think it's pretty safe to say, whether it's in 6 months or it will be sooner than 6 years, but like the asset is going higher. It's a perfectly scarce asset. It's only getting more popular. So like it's pretty straightforward. Imagine. So it feels like a great time to me because you do have an edge. The big players aren't really back yet. They're trying hard. You get
They're slow.
Yeah, they're slow.
That's what people don't
wirehouses
understand.
are still trying to get able to sell these things, and
It's solicitation only at Morgan Stanley.
Exactly.
And that's I think something else that's important for the audience to understand is that so a story and an insight. I've always told people the early adopters in the institutional segment were going to be family offices. Why would they be family offices? Because they have the capital to be in that segment, but yet they have the most control over what they can do. And what clients often don't understand is that in these institutional buckets, even if you want to do something, you can't do it tomorrow.
Yeah.
You can't. Like you can't. There is regulation, there's board approval, there's compliance, there's structuring.
in some states, the like state pension fund is run by an elected official. Did you know that?
No.
I'm not going to name, I know at least one. I'm not going to name and shame, but like, can you imagine if like your hedge fund manager has to be a politician? That's the case. So just to add to your point, I mean, it's a lot of roadblocks. Like I've heard from one that they're like, maybe like, depending on what happens with like the elected official, it's like their CIO is a politician.
Yeah. Be a good short target.
I mean, what are you going to do? No, you're totally right, though. Yeah.
But they're slow.
You can't do it right away. You can't just push a button.
And that's part of the advantage that, you have.
Even like traditional hedge funds
Correct.
have LPs. They can't just like change the strategy, right?
And this is also what I've said. People have always asked me, I get this question like, is Apple going to do the strategy or like these big companies? And I'm going to tell you, there's one common thread that you need to see of all the companies that have done that strategy. Founder controlled.
Yep.
You're not getting this through a board. A board's purpose in a public company is risk diffusal. They can't do anything that if it goes poorly, or in most cases they can't do anything, that's going to get them sued. That's going to get they're so risk conscious. There's a principal agent problem, and you're not going to get it. Even if the CEO of Apple wanted to put Bitcoin on the balance sheet, you're not getting through the board until it is more normative. And so the only companies you'll see will be these, and which were they? MicroStrategy, controlled by Saylor. Tesla, controlled by Elon. Other ones of Elon's company.
Even like Square, right? I mean,
Dorsey.
and even it's a different class, but Metaplanet also basically just controlled. I can totally agree with this. I mean, think about a company like Apple, right? I mean, it's one of the biggest companies in the world. I mean, I don't know, what is it now, like 2 or 3? And it was one. I mean, it's a huge company, tons to protect, right? I mean, and a very powerful business. Most people that I know have an Apple iPhone.
Yeah.
Huge penetration in the U.S. in particular. I mean, if I take this to a CFO or a board, you want to do what? What's wrong with our our $1 trillion+ company? Yeah, why would
it's
we?
Going well.
What new strategy do we need to undertake?
Yeah, and that's something so cutting edge, so controversial, and so it's just what we see time and time again. It's the family offices, it's the founder-led businesses. We are in this moment in the market where it's the people who have the ability to control their own actions are the people jumping on this. And actually, that's a leading indicator, because if the people with the most autonomy, with the most sovereignty, are doing this, that actually tells you something that very smart, very sophisticated people that are used to taking risks, that are used to managing risk, like this asset.
Yep.
And the fact that the big corporations haven't done it yet, that doesn't tell you as much as you think.
I think you're right. Yeah. One of the other things I hear sometimes from these more institutional, these types that are involved in pensions, allocators, RIAs on platforms that have all these roadblocks and risk aversion is their inability, they say, to value Bitcoin. And I'm going to say right now, I hear this primarily from people that have the 3 letters CFA at the end of their name, because Bitcoin it's not a cash generative equity. It's not a company. It's not. I don't really think it is a commodity. I certainly think it should be thought of as a commodity for U.S. regulatory purposes, certainly more than other possible things it could be. But Is that a problem that you hear sometimes from your clients? How do I value this? Is it overvalued, or what's the correct value? Like, is that a question you get?
Yeah, so I'll answer that, but first I want to say that like I actually see that as like literally it's an info hazard. It's a brain virus. What specifically is going on there is people equate the model with reality. They're looking at a model or a framework that is conventionally used, and they think that this isn't a tool, this is literally reality. And so anything that doesn't fit into this model, therefore, something's wrong with it. Whereas, like, yeah, that could be a very useful tool for equities, for what it's applied to. And I'm not saying that doesn't work or that doesn't have value, but you're missing the reality. Like you're missing like a core argument, which is like people are valuing this over a very long period of time against tremendous odds, and it's only getting more valuable.
Right.
So you're fighting with reality in a way. You're saying this thing that observationally, phenomenologically has value. Like, give me a Bitcoin if it doesn't have value. Just because you don't know how to value it, now that's a different question, and that's
Right.
a valid question, right? You can say, I'm just not clear on how to value this. Okay, fine. That's interesting. We could work on that.
Right.
But the idea that it doesn't have value because it doesn't fit your model of what value is,
Right.
something wrong there.
I agree. The cult of financial advisors, the CFAs, it is. I mean this actually. It is like a priesthood, right? There is an established credentialization process, and for better or worse, and I think certainly as it relates to Bitcoin, for worse, over these years that Bitcoin has truly emerged as a deeply liquid investable asset, have just egregiously missed the boat on it for a really silly reason.
Yes.
And part of it is like, it's okay if you don't know how to value it. It is different. That's why I say it's not even really a commodity. Like it's not.
No.
It might be a digital commodity. You could think of it that way. I don't even think that's right. I think of it more as like a non-sovereign FX. But there's no way to value FX. People don't value FX really on the value of
How much GDP?
Not really.
Not really.
They
That's
mostly
fake.
just value it against other things. They're like, well, how much is the dollar worth? Well, it's worth like 1.1 euros, or it's worth 9. I'm doing it backwards, but like it's worth this much gold. Like that's how much it's worth. Like we don't really know.
Based on vibes, I think it's worth 2/3 of a dollar.
Exactly.
That feels right.
Exactly, and
and that's fine.
Yeah, and I agree with you. I don't know the correct value of Bitcoin. I think there are some interesting tools to decide if like the market trading is overheated or bullish looking. Sure, but like what is the
That's
fundamental
even a different thing,
value?
though. Yeah, like overheated. Like
It is a different thing. It's more
that's
like
a different
signals. It's not really
Yeah.
value. And then there's all this dispute. Like, well, part of me, one way that I like to think about blockchains is that they're sellers of block space. That the blockchain itself, the block space, the value that you get from recording a transaction between Alex and Steven on the Bitcoin blockchain, that's the value. That's the product. And then there's an entire rabbit hole the audience can go down. Okay, well, if you agree with that, how do you value that? Yeah. And that's also not easy, especially with an asset like Bitcoin that's like really has a huge product market fit in store of value. Well, a lot of people, they pay once for the block space, and they may not move those coins for years, maybe even forever. So there are many ways to think about this. None of them, I don't really know. We've looked at this. I've been asked to produce this content many times, and we've done a DCF model on Bitcoin. They work better on other crypto assets than Bitcoin for various reasons, but it's terrible. Don't recommend relying on a discounted cash flow model for Bitcoin. We've done the best I can come up with. Mostly has been, well, like what does it look the most like a TAM analysis, basically.
Yeah.
That's as close as we've really come to something that I think actually is useful.
Yeah, so it's interesting. So I'm almost a little bit of a skeptic now. It's not to say that there isn't some sort of utility in some of these things. I'm not saying there's no utility, but I'm almost a little bit of skeptic of the very pursuit of valuing financial assets. And I come at it kind of from a building from the ground up level of just what actually sets price. Like what actually determines if Apple stock trades up or trades down. It's if people are hitting the buy button or hitting the sell button. Like
right.
causally, scientifically, like the causal mechanisms by which that number changes is someone is doing orders. Okay, so why is that person doing orders? Because of the contents of their mind. Like literally, it's how do they feel? How do they think about this asset? Do they think it should be worth more? Do they think it should be worth less? And so if you wanted to like empirically model what causes price, you would need to model human minds. And some people might be making decisions off financial models, but countless other actors are not. There are plenty of people that buy Tesla stock every day that have not looked at a financial model. And it's this more diffuse sort of way. And like that is causally, like if you had total information, if you had all the information in the world and you could model everyone's mind, you could perfectly predict price because it's all human action. But we're not doing that. And people will kind of get around this. I think it's a reality by being like, well, over the long run, like things kind of come back to this average that's somewhere around cash flows. And that can be true. And you've basically said everything that diverges from my model doesn't matter. It's just when it comes back into line.
Then I'm right again. The
and
broken clock
and
is right like, twice a day.
Well, you had no predictive power of all the times where it went wildly off base. And so like, yeah, if you just want to like buy a company that you think will continue to make money over 30 years with the general sense that as long as they keep making money, I'll make money. Like, yeah, fine. That's sufficient. That's fine. But like, there's a difference between that and like predicting price.
Right. And
You
like,
know?
if you think about, the huge narrative for years has been that PE values on Wall Street are super hot, right? Everything's trading way above this model that the cult
Yep.
has agreed on.
Exactly.
The professional investor class is largely part of this. What's the word I'm really looking for? It's like an
Managerial.
order.
Yeah,
It's like a priesthood. Like I said,
It
it's like
is.
it's a class of individuals.
It is.
Who've all been trained the same way.
Yeah. They know
think
the scripture, they
they're,
know the
The
doctrine.
PE ratio is super hot. Well, it's like, did you ever consider that there's not really anywhere to put your money that's like not dilutive in the dollar with inflation and such?
Exactly.
So people don't care about it. They have to put it somewhere that will earn them a return.
PE ratios have been hot for the last 15 years.
Yeah.
So you stopped investing, right? You haven't had money in the market
Exactly.
for 15
Oh,
Like,
how'd
what
you do?
happened to you?
Yeah, how'd you do?
You know what I mean? It's not like, I get it. You can be like, oh, it's a bubble and you're 6 months early and then it crashed. Like, that's fine. That's legitimate. Like, good job. You made a good call. But like, when it continues for a decade or more, like, you got to take the L. Like, something is broken and like, it doesn't match. Reality does not conform to your model. Reality is not what's wrong.
One thing I've struggled with, and there are a lot of smart investors the smart investors know this. They use it as a tool.
They do.
But
It's
a
a tool.
lot of them then it's just a tool breaks down when they look at something like Bitcoin. It's like, now there are smart people, the Stan Druckenmillers, the Paul Tudor Joneses, that they also like Bitcoin and they've made that mental leap. But there's tons of smart investors who are like, no, we've been in the market for the last 15 years, Steven. We're not crazy. Even though our model says that we shouldn't be buyers at these prices, of course we were, and thank God we were. And then you're like, okay, so you disregarded the model, but now you're begging for that same model to apply to this thing that, by the way, you don't even understand. And by the way, many people don't. It's almost a phenomenon and a movement more than even an asset, Bitcoin.
Absolutely.
It's very ironic, and people are just afraid of new things in the end, you know?
They are. And I mean, like, some of those traders, Druckenmiller, and I mean, all those guys, they liked Soros's book, right? And what's in Soros's book? What does Soros talk about? He talks about trading off his backaches. Like, that's real. I'm not making this up.
Yes.
Like, Soros would exit positions because his back started aching. And if that doesn't tell you that one of the most successful traders used this opaque, qualitative, like, you don't have an accurate model of like how these like live players and actors are actually doing this thing. And you need to unhook yourself a little bit from this fixation on like models. And like, the question you need to ask, are more people going to buy Bitcoin this year than the year before or next year? Will the number of people that buy Bitcoin, like Bitcoin, value it, think it's good, included as some percentage of that assets, will that number increase over a 1 year time horizon, 5 year, a 10 year? That's the only question. Like, I don't care about the rest of it. That is what will drive it going up. And to me, that answer is a clear yes. Like, and where we are right now is proof of that, right? If you had told me 2 years ago that that a presidential candidate would be speaking about Bitcoin as part of their policy, that the Republican Party would release a platform, their official platform, and there'd be a bunch about Bitcoin, I wouldn't have believed you, man.
Yeah.
Like,
you think
and yet
Satoshi would have been like, well, I think he'd be blown away.
Yeah,
I mean,
gotta be.
This was an experiment.
Yeah,
He released it on the cryptography mailing list.
Any founder should be blown away when their company actually succeeds.
I mean, Bitcoin is one of the most widely known and successful brands in human history.
My God.
With no company, no real founder. I mean, a creator, I'll say, but no leadership team, no venture backers,
budget.
no marketing.
Yeah.
It's truly amazing. Is that your impression so far in Nashville too?
Yes, 100%, and even more. Like, what I walk away with, I'm always amazed at the passion of the Bitcoin community. Like, it's truly staggering. Some people online have criticized Bitcoin unintelligently, I think, by saying it's a cult. And so we're not going to invest in it because it's a cult. And what I say to them is, I only invest in cults. If you don't have a cult, I don't really care. Like, did NVIDIA have a cult? Absolutely. Did Tesla have a cult? Absolutely.
A rabid one.
Like a rabid one.
Yeah.
Like the best investments. Like if your asset, company, idea, vision can't inspire some level of passionate engagement, well, I don't think that's as good as one which does. And I'm always amazed. And it's like people that have never met a lot of Bitcoiners, that have never been in person, I think underestimate how sophisticated, how successful, how intelligent, and I'm not saying this to butter up my audience or whatever, but honest to God, the number of founders, CEOs, very successful people, very intelligent people I meet in this community that fly out to events like this, that put a significant portion of their net worth in this asset, that devote a significant portion of their intellectual life, it blows me away. And it only gets larger every year. It's easy to be long that.
It is easy to be long that. Steven Lubka, head of Swan Private, thank you so much for coming on Galaxy Brains, my friend.
My pleasure, man.
Thanks for listening to Galaxy Brains, the weekly podcast from Galaxy Research. If you enjoy the show, please like, rate, review, and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. To follow Galaxy Research, sign up for our weekly newsletter at gdr.email, read our content at galaxy.com/research, and follow us on Twitter at GLXY Research. See you next week.